Hey everybody, welcome to UFC, Unfolding His Creation. Today we're going to talk about ice layers and we're also going to talk about tree rings. But before I get to that, I want to put out a little complaint that a lot of creationists and Bible-believing believers use some evidence that they use to prove their faith that I just don't think is quite sound. I think as Christians, we need to, as Bible-believing Christians especially, we need to present factual evidence that supports why we believe what we believe. Some of the pet peeve evidences is the circular reasoning around the Bible. A lot of Christians I know actually use that when I was an atheist to try to prove to me that the Bible was real because God wrote it. Well, if I don't believe that God exists, then that doesn't have any weight with me. We need to use some actual tangible evidence that we can see, test, and demonstrate. That's what they're looking for. That's what we here at UFC plan on putting forth, is evidence that you can see, test, and demonstrate. So let's get to the ice layers, and then we'll talk about the tree rings. So the assumption goes that when you dig down in the ice, you pull up these long samples, and they have a light and a dark spot. The dark spot's for the summer where it warms up, and the light spots for the winter where it's cool. And these are annual layers. So you dig down and you have these huge, long samples of ice, and there's lots and lots and lots of layers of annual layers. And there's a problem with this. There's actually no scientific data that proves that they are annual layers. So here's challenge number one to the evolutionists. Present some evidence for the assumption that one layer is actually one annual year. I think that you'll find that you can't find it. It's not out there. This is one of the faiths that evolutionists have. Evolutionists have faith too. Most of them just don't realize it. This is one of them. The layers of ice actually doesn't prove annual. So the real science, what we can see, test, and demonstrate, would be expressed in a story, the Lost Squadron. If you haven't heard of it, go ahead and look it up, check it out. This squadron of planes was flying over in World War II, ran out of gas, landed on Greenland, sorry about that, landed on Greenland. They left their airplanes and abandoned them, and they were sitting on the ice there for a long time, 48 years, before somebody finally actually got back there and burrowed down in the ice and dug them out. They had these hot digging machines that they would literally melt themselves down into the ice, the boring machines, and they melted themselves down into the ice. These tunnels went all the way down, 263 feet, as a matter of fact. They went down to find the planes. They were many hundreds of layers on those in that 263 feet, 48 years, and there were many hundreds of layers. Not just 48 layers like there should have been, but there were many hundreds. As a matter of fact, Bob Cardin, he was the supervisor that was running the digging operation there, said that they found 30 or 40 rings in just 9 years. So they dug down a little bit, they put a piece of plywood down, and then they continued digging. And over the course of the dig, they could count then that there were 30 or 40 rings in just 9 years. So what we can see, test, and demonstrate says that they're not annual layers. That one layer does not mean one annual year. So basically all of the dating systems that we've been using that say that the world is at least 680,000 years old because that's how many layers we can find in the deepest ice samples is wrong. It's based off faith that they don't actually have data on. So let's go on to tree rings. Now tree rings is even more interesting because here again, I would like to see some scientific data that actually supports that one ring is an annual year. Basically, it's the same thing, light, dark, summer, winter, annual, annual. The problem is there's no evidence that actually supports that these are annual rings. So there's an experiment that was done. A gentleman grew a bristlecone pine. He grew it for 3 years. 3 years, okay? Over the course of the 3 years, he got 6 rings. Now there's something wrong there. This is what we can see, test, and demonstrate. 3 years, 6 rings. So let me explain how this worked. He got one in the spring, he got one in the fall, and he got an extra one when he ran a 3-week drought. So a drought will make an extra ring, and the spring will make one, and the fall will make one. And the summer, because it could potentially drought, could make one. So that's 3. And we also know that in the wintertime, bristlecone pines can actually put on an extra ring because of the light reflecting off the snow that will cause an extra growth in the winter. So that's 4. That's 4 rings that can be scientifically proven in one annual year. We have an issue with the tree ring dating system. It's falsifiable. There's no evidence supporting it, and the science actually contradicts it. So look, we've got to stop using the tree ring dating to prove that the world is over 6,000 years old. It's faulty and it's falsifiable. So let's find some extra evidence, something else, and we'll talk about that. So I hope you guys enjoyed. See you later. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day. Funny to me.